Welcome to Philly Fortune Talks with your host, Jake Penny, where the city's brightest minds share the secrets behind their success. Are you ready to be inspired?
What if the keys to your success, wealth, and freedom was just one breakthrough away? Today's guest, Joe Evangelisti, is here to show you how to unlock that potential. With over 5,000 hours of coaching experience, a thriving real estate portfolio, and a mission to help entrepreneurs achieve 7, 8, and even 9-figure success, Joe has guided countless business owners to transform their lives. As the host of Legacy Blueprint podcast and CEO of multiple companies, Joe is not only a powerhouse entrepreneur, but also a former Navy CB with a passion for leading and inspiring. Let's dive into strategies that will take your business and life to the next level. Joe, it's a pleasure to have you on Philly Fortune Talks.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So, Joe, give the listeners a little bit of a background, about yourself, where you started and where you're at now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, really, I've been a product of construction trade my whole life, and I grew up as a son of a general contractor. My dad, he was a drywall contractor when I was a little kid, and then by the time I was in my teens, he was doing additions and kitchens and all that kind of stuff. And then I was lucky enough to go right out of high school. I did a semester at college and realized it wasn't for me, and went in the military. And I was lucky. When I say I'm lucky, I got to go in the Seabees, which, most people never even heard of. It's the construction battalions of the Navy. These guys fly everywhere, no boats, no ships. We deploy, we do our thing. We build stuff all over the world. And I had an amazing tour with them for 6 years and did all kinds of cool shit. And then, inevitably ended up in the real estate game in 2007 when, I consider another lucky time to get involved because probably the hardest time ever, and except for what we're facing today. So it was a good learning curve.
Absolutely. I feel like anybody well, not anybody, but getting started in some of the rougher times of real estate, you kind of build that grit and you go through hell to make it work. And usually those people are successful in just like your good times as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it gives you a baseline of someone said this during COVID, like adversity forces you to do the things that you should have been doing all along. And I think a lot of people got smacked around during COVID that had to pivot, had to course correct. And that's just how I've always been. I mean, I've literally, I've changed the game, I've changed our business strategy, I've changed our model, I've changed directions, I've pivoted. I've been doing it my whole career, and it's because I had to do it from day one. So it's just been normal for me.
Yeah, you had like a pretty extensive fix and flipping business and what you pivoted to self-storage, correct?
Yeah, we did about right before COVID. Actually, we pivoted to commercial real estate, and it's been absolutely awesome ever since. It's it doesn't, not without its challenges, obviously, but
Of
super
course.
happy we did it.
So you've dedicated like over 5,000 hours to coaching real estate investors and entrepreneurs. What inspired you to take on the role as a mentor? And how do you help others unlock their potential?
Yeah, it really started for me back joining my first mastermind over a decade ago and getting surrounded by the right people. I mean, I know it's kind of cliche and people talk about this all the time, but when you surround yourself with people that want to support, want to help you grow, want to see you be successful, they're in alignment, they're dealing with levels of challenges that you don't just talk to normal people in your backyard that are dealing with them. And you can kind of commiserate, but you can also co-create, right?
Mm.
So, you bring ideas together, you see them to fruition, and to have that group of folks to rely on, um, I think is super impactful. And then to add to that, I've been getting one-on-one coaching now for probably 5, 6 years. And in that time, I've started to learn that, it's like anything else. You want to improve upon something. It's like, you see stories. Tom Brady had 15 to 20 coaches and all different, he had a coach for his throw, he had a coach for his steps, he had a coach for his nutrition, he had a coach, so, when you want to really get better and level up at a thing, I think it's really important that you have the right person to spitball ideas and make decisions and really work through high level questions to get those results you're looking for.
Yeah, I truly believe if you have the ability to, you should have a coach in every aspect of life, as long
Mhm.
as you're coachable, right? A coach doesn't necessarily want to work with someone that's not coachable and has too big of an ego that can't get out of their own way.
Yeah.
So, Legacy Builder Real Estate Academy, that's your coaching. You've helped, businesses and individuals achieve 7, 8, and even 9-figure success. What are like some key strategies you believe contributed to this kind of exponential growth?
Yeah, so really I break it down into four categories, and then there's like a bonus fifth category, right? And so the biggest challenge that people have to overcome, number one, is this right here. It's all mindset, right?
Hmm.
So like, we tend to, as entrepreneurs, we tend to have, whether we want to call them extreme limiting beliefs or not, we all have limiting beliefs, right? We have self-doubt, we have negative self-talk, we have all of these things that add up to, effectively a poor mindset or a challenged mindset. And so overcoming these limiting beliefs is number one. And so I always talk about, you know, how many times have you had this like a great idea and then immediately you start convincing yourself of why it is that the great idea is not going to work out, right? I'm not strong enough. I'm not good enough. I don't have enough experience. I haven't spent enough time. What we're doing is we're rationalizing why it's a bad idea. And when
Hmm.
we break that word down, Jake, we're telling ourselves rational lies about why we're not capable. We're lying to ourselves. And
Hmm.
we can overcome that. That's a superpower in itself. That's number one. Number one is getting the right mindset and keeping the right mindset because it's challenging enough to believe what you believe, but then you have to continue to believe it, right? Because every
Right.
single day you're going to get hit with challenges or something comes out of left field. And then what's that force us to do? It forces to second guess our beliefs. So getting the right mindset and staying strong in our beliefs is the first step to really unlocking success and potential.
Yeah, and being brought up, many people have always just had negative incantations bred into them. Like they always can't do this, or that's a
100%.
bad idea. And like, once they get this great idea that they're highly capable of achieving, we can achieve anything that we want. It's like they go back to their roots where their parents or their friends when they grew up said, you can't do that. That's impossible, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I know, you can do anything as long as you put your mind to it.
Yeah, that really reminds me of that keynote that Ed Milet's been given for a year or two since his last book came out. It's called The Power of One More, right? And he talks about that every family tree has the one, right? It's the one that resets it. It's the one that
Hmm.
replants it. It's the one that restarts it. And so, I think a lot of those limiting beliefs you're referring to are very serious. They came from just time and environment for a long period of time. If you're the first big entrepreneur to step out and do something different, it's going to be hard to get your family to support that. Not because they don't support you, it's because they're afraid. They're afraid that you might fail. They're afraid they've never seen anybody else do it before. They're afraid that you're going to leave them in the dust when you go on and you become successful. So
Yeah.
a lot of us harbor that stuff from a long background, and it has nothing to do with your family or your parents or your uncles or your aunts not believing in you. It's actually more of their own kind of self-doubt stuff that they're just pushing onto us. And so, yeah, it's big time trying to overcome a lot of those family lineage, things that are holding you back.
Yeah, I think when I saw Ed Milet about a year ago, he said something because he did that the speech he does,
Mhm.
and he said something on the lines. I forget what the exact verbiage is, but it's like, be the person that has the breakout so that future generations can have the breakthrough.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, shit, man, like that's what I've always wanted,
Yeah.
in my life, and I'm sure you've wanted in your life, and many other people, entrepreneurs, want as well.
Yeah, I love that, man. And then, I think that when I think about that, I think about, and I think most parents feel the same way, is like, I have two little girls. I want them to be more successful than me. I want them
Mhm.
to beat me up at what I do. I want them to get into my game and be like, Dad, you're playing too small. Because my dad was the first entrepreneur and he was successful in his own right. But I was able to buy his company when I was like 27, 28 years old. Like I was, I took it to a whole nother level than even what he took it to, and I know he's proud of that, and I think that's amazing. Now I want to give my girls a head start so that they can do things that I couldn't even dream of, and I think that's what Ed's talking about, right? You reset that family tree, but now you got to make sure you're fertilizing it and feeding it.
For sure. As CEO or owner, whatever you want to call it, and operator of many companies. You've had a successful flipping company, wholesaling company, construction. You have your coaching academy. You have uh, your commercial real estate. How do you manage your time and responsibilities while also maintaining like strong leadership across all of them, and also like being a family man as well?
Yeah, and I appreciate that question, and we definitely have to play around with that bio a little bit because it makes it sound like, I used to say this years ago. I used to like brag about being the CEO of like 7 or 8 different 7-figure company. And here's the facts, and here's where I think a lot of people go wrong. I used to think that was cool, right? And it wasn't that there was a lie, because I had 7-figure I've had so many 7-figure companies, Jake, that don't make money, right? I've had
Right.
so many, companies do 2 million in revenue and break even. And so what I really started to do in the last 3 or 4 years is get super focused. I'm
Hmm.
sure you probably heard of the book Essentialism. But now it's like I focus on things that are in vertical alignment. And so what that looks like is, I still have the wholesale company, I still have the commercial development company, I still have the coaching company, which are my 3 main focuses, aside from different investments and things where I'm not
Right.
operationally involved. But those are all in alignment because most of my clients are in some sort of real estate investing, or they're an attorney that builds a portfolio on the side, or they're involved in real estate one way or shape or form. Those vertically integrating the other businesses, obviously, because we can joint venture, we can bring opportunity, we have investments, we have all these different things that align. And so the more successful I help those clients become, generally it helps me become more successful by default, right? Depending on whether I'm joint venturing a deal or not. And
Right.
that's not to say that every client I have is a partner, but that to me has been more of a focus lately, is how can I help people grow their business for a small fraction of upside, profit, potential, whatever. And then of course it starts to align with what else do we have going on. Maybe they're in the wholesale game and I can help them with what we're doing, or they're in the commercial development game, or they're developing single family and they want to start to do bigger commercial projects. So now I can use my experience to help roll that in. So even though it sounds like I'm running multiple companies, and I kind of am, I'm really kind of doing the same thing every single day. I'm on
Right.
a podcast talking about it, I'm on coaching calls talking about it, or I'm talking to bankers about doing deals, right? So it's always one kind of direct focus towards real estate development.
Yeah, when you're like vertically integrated and all the businesses are parallel, they kind of just like all jive. And it's like you're not doing much more work. Like if you, running 3 companies, it's crazy. Da 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 da. It's like it's
Yeah,
all kind of in the same lane. So it flows.
yeah.
Um, but you said you've created 7-figure, 8-figure companies,
Mhm.
and some haven't been profitable or they break even. Even though that may be the fact, building those businesses and getting them to scale and building the teams is still an infrastructure is
Yeah,
still pretty intense. Like to even get to that type of level. So like
100%. Yeah.
that's a huge accomplishment in itself, even though they maybe break even or not profitable.
Mhm.
What qualities did you look for in those individuals to ensure they like aligned with your company mission and values while building out those companies and teams?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're talking recruiting and culture, and that is that's a never ending. I try to think of the Tony Robbins acronym. He calls it CANI, CANI, right? Constant and never
And
ending
I,
improvement, right? So,
uh,
when it comes to hiring and firing people, I mean, I have literally hired and fired hundreds of people, and it's never easy. It's never fun. It's difficult. You have to kiss a lot of frogs, but when you find your core group, you'll know when you found them. The fact is, a lot of people, what I see, and I coach on them growing and building teams, they're not hiring enough, frankly. Like, a lot
hmm.
of people say hire slow, fire fast. I like to hire fast, fire fast, and then keep long term. Okay. So what I mean by that is we bring everybody on board with a 90-day probationary trial period, basically. So I give you a job, you have 90 days to basically prove that you're capable of doing that job. And we do 30-day check-ins, and we set new baselines for each 30 days. Hey, here's 3 to 5 things we're going to do in the next month. All right, great. How do we do? What did you learn? What do you need help with? What's working? What's not working? Those kind of questions. And
Hmm.
then if they make that first 30, okay, we'll give you another 30. They do that, we give you another 30. After 90, now you become a full-time team member. But
Mm.
being really, really confident and straight to the point about when it's not working is why people tend to have employees that last too long. Darren Hardy wrote a book about this a long time ago, Entrepreneur's Roller Coaster, right? And he said that the average bad hire costs you 2 years of salary. And he
Wow.
said that because what do? We spend 6, 9, 12 months training somebody, and then
Yep.
we spend another 6 months of convincing ourselves that they're going to be good. And then by the time we figure it out, we're a year and a half into it, and we spend 6 months finding a replacement for them, right? If you can boil that down to 90 days, well, guess what? Let's say your employee cost you 60 grand a year. Well, you can kiss 4 frogs for 60 grand, or you can kiss the same frog for 60 grand. The chances of you finding the right one when you kiss four goes
Right.
up astronomically, right? Whereas a lot of people will hire that one and they'll sit there and make excuses for him for 12, 14, 18, 24 months until finally they pull the band-aid off and they do the difficult work, which is getting rid of them and replacing them, and you start over again. So, I think it's really, really important that you hire fast, you fire fast, and then you keep the good ones long term.
Yeah, the quicker you can take it behind the shed and put it out of its
That's
misery,
it.
the better.
That's
Oh
it.
man, a lot of people they just bleed out for so long, and then it's already too late. They're never getting ahead because they're constantly in that vortex that just like keeps them down on ground level.
Well, and I'll tell you the flip side of that too, and people don't talk about this enough, is the person that's working for you, if they're not in alignment with their unique ability and they don't love coming to work and they're not productive, people that are not productive don't want to stay somewhere, right? The problem is, as a team member or an employee, they feel bad quitting. They feel
Mhm.
like they owe you something. They feel like they should try harder. And if they're not a good fit, you're doing them a disservice just as much as you're doing the business a disservice by keeping them around because good people that are bad at their jobs will stick around for a long time just to collect that paycheck.
Milking it.
Doesn't make them bad people. They're just not good at their job. So find them a seat on someone else's bus.
And that's why I think you said that culture is so important. When people are aligned with the mission, the vision, the greater purpose, they're more likely to produce more for you.
100%. Yeah. And love what they do. That unique ability thing is so missed by so many people. Like if you're not good at something or your team member is not good at something, stop giving them that thing to do
Yeah.
because they're not going to get better over time. They just don't like it, So let's find someone that does like it.
Yeah, it's like I think it's like the 80/20. Well, no, I forget what it is. The rule is, but it's in anything, in any business, or when you're working with someone, it's like give them what they're good at, take what away they're not good at, and
Yep.
have like I'm good at something you might not be good at. Okay, that's what I do. You're
Yep.
good at something I'm not good at. Well, that's what you do. Stay in your lane and just be that one thing and have multiple people.
Well, you're really getting into like part two of the things that define
Okay.
people, right? And that's the strategy, right? So like, I always say this analogy, like most people they plan a trip to Mexico for a week and they know exactly how they're getting to the airport, exactly what seat they're sitting on, first class, second class, where they're landing, how they're getting to the hotel. My daughter jokes around, calls it second class. When she was a little kid, that's kind of an inside joke, but I don't really call it second class. What hotel they're staying at. Is their room going to have an ocean view? Is it going to have a pool view? Is it going to have a view of the dumpsters because you didn't upgrade?
Mm.
Where are you going to dinner? What are your contingency plans if it rains? All this stuff about a trip to Mexico. But you ask people, like, what do you want out of your business? What do you want to get out of your business in the next 12 months, 3 years, 5 years? What's your exit strategy for your business? Are you building it to sell? Are you building it to liquidate? Are you building it to give to your kids? You ask them these questions, Jake, and they're totally in the gray. Like they can't answer any of the questions. And so a lot of it going along that unique ability thing is like designing a strategy that works for you so that your business works for you. And then
Mm.
getting an alignment that you can go out and execute and you can bring to the fight your unique ability, right? And so many people spend so many decades, trying to, you hear these guys, I work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's because you're not efficient. It's because you probably don't like what you do. It's probably because you're not in alignment or you're afraid to delegate and hire for people to do the things that you're not good at, which is really the detriment to so many people's strategy is not getting in alignment and understanding of the outcome they're trying to get to.
Yeah, they're self-employed business owners, right? They're the navigator, the captain of the ship at all times. And it takes up their day to day, whether, instead of being somebody that works on their business, they're inside their business.
100%. And you can do both, by the way. But if you're
Yeah, you
doing
can
18
definitely
hours
do
a
both.
day, you're doing it wrong. Like 18 hours a few days a month, maybe, but never on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I think like working in the business is good sometimes for culture, right? Because people see you, they get the vibe from you. They see, oh, this person doesn't necessarily have to be here, but they are, and they're like, equals, right? They see that, hey, you know, they're doing the work that I'm doing. All right, cool. Like he's hustling, I should be hustling too. I think it's good every now and then.
Agreed. Agreed. No, I mean, yeah. And listen, as a business owner, if you're not having that happen, if you have all of your nights and weekends to yourself, you're probably also doing something wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, so
So you've created Legacy Builder Real Estate Academy to mentor like the next generation of investors, like you mentioned, making it to where your daughters are better than you are, have more opportunity than you are. What excites you most about the future of real estate investing and how you're preparing your students for it?
yeah, that's a great question. That's actually a great question. I think there's a lot in the future of real estate. I think real estate's going to continue to be one of the best, asset classes to figure out. Whether I don't care what industry you're in office, you're in apartments, you're in REIT. Like somebody said this the other day. I think there's too many, whether it's gurus or just influencers out there bashing different types of, oh, you wholesale, you're not as good as me. I build houses or I flip houses or I think as long as you find a niche in real estate and you get really damn good at it, it's one of the best things long term that you can create because you create legacy wealth. And what does that mean? Well,
Mhm.
you build up a portfolio that effectively starts paying itself down, starts paying you cash flow. You get to a point. Now, I remember one of my mentors a long time ago. I kept joking that I'm going to pay off all my real estate. I mean, he said to me like dead faced, and he was like, "No, you're not. Why would you do that?" And I go, what do you mean? Isn't that like the ultimate goal to have 100 houses all paid off? And he goes, no. The ultimate goal is to constantly refinance those houses,
Yep.
take tax-free proceeds, go do it again. And at the time, I didn't even understand. I'm like, no, 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 you got to pay them off. Um, I think there's so many opportunities in the real estate sector. Again, I don't care what you do, as long as you're building a portfolio. And that's kind of where we missed on the flip side, frankly, Jake. I mean, I collected like 120 doors during the time we flipped houses in 10 or 12 years. But I never really built legacy wealth. What I mean by that is I can build a commercial property or two or three or five a year, and those things might be worth 20, 30 million dollars, and we're into them 60 cents on the dollar, right? So we can do a few of those instead of dozens and dozens of flip deals a year and be more profitable, create longer passive income streams, and create more equity than we ever created in the single family world. And so I think there's levels to it, and you should be in different pieces of it. But ultimately, as long as you're collecting and you're growing and you're paying down debt every month, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Atlanta. I just hit over 100 doors.
Good for you.
And
Awesome.
I had a call with somebody that was in private, he's more private equity based, a
Mhm.
friend of mine, and he's like, you should liquidate, 40% of your portfolio. I was like, why? He's like,
Yeah.
well, you have so much debt. And I'm like, it doesn't like I want more debt because I
Yeah.
buy more properties, I refinance these and I buy more, or just, whatever it may be. He's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like there's a lot of exposure. And I was like, hey, I mean, you think what you want. I mean, I'm in my lane. So, but that's the whole name of the game is like, you don't want 10 or 100 properties paid off. Like, what good? It's like, the American dream is to pay off your home. It's like, okay,
Hasn't happened in 40 years, but go ahead.
yeah, and it's like, all right, well, for the most people, they had really low rates, so or they've had their mortgage for a long time, so it was like, oh, like you want to save $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month. Now all you have is dead equity sitting in your home doing nothing. Like there's no point of it. Like refinance, buy some property with it, lend that money out, do something
Yeah.
because like dead equity is no good whatsoever.
Well, let's talk about that for a second because that was the American dream that was perpetrated from post World War II to like the late 90s, 2000s, right? Was buy a house, pay it down, that's your nest egg. The problem was sometime in the 90s, 2000s, the refi, surge started to happen, and everyone would go, "Oh, I can borrow more money and then just get it back." And so their equity would be completely wiped out every 5 or 10 years
Yeah.
until like I know people that bought their house in the late 80s that owe more than it's worth today because they refied so many times. I have these conversations all the time, and I'm like, how did you get here? Well, the mortgage guy reached out to me every 3 years and said the rates are this or that's your equity's this. And so what happened was this whole generation of boomers would pay down their mortgage to zero, and that was their nest egg. And then our generation after that started saying, oh, we could just refi all the time. Now they don't have any equity, and
Yeah.
there's this phantom thing out there that says like, I forget what the exact percentage was. There's a huge percentage of people own their house 100% free and clear. What they're not saying is they're 65 plus, right? Those are
Right.
the boomers. Like, yeah, they did that. Our generation doesn't do that. So when they liquidate that and they move on and they do something different, it's going to leave us, all the rest of us, in a world of hurt because there's so much leverage on the single families.
Yeah, and for the most part, like, yeah, your home is a liability while you're paying for it. When it's free and clear, you can say it's an asset depending on what you use it for. But if you factor in all the cost of the interest you paid over the years, the taxes, the insurance, the improvements, and the upkeep that you did over the 30 years, it's like you're pretty much break even. Now, if you were in, Fishtown or like San Francisco, whatever. I mean, Fishtown to get San Francisco is like a huge variance, but
Yeah.
like there's some cases to where it's like, okay, well, your equity went through the roof, but others is like, if you really look at it and put everything and all the numbers and break it down, it's like you were just break even
That's
over
it.
30 years.
That's it. Especially if you hit that reset every 5 to 7. You've already paid all the interest front loaded.
Yeah.
Starting back from scratch and doing it again. People don't know that when they do it. So it's sad.
Nope. So you're a man with multiple sources of income, passive, active, everything. Can you share your thoughts on the importance of creating multiple sources of income, especially those in real estate?
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, I'm a huge advocate of having different places that pay you, right? Which is why I have a couple different companies. And, whether or not that's passive income or whether it's a side hustle or whatever you want to call it, I don't care if you have a W-2 and you make great money. I think it's always good to have alternative sources of income and start to stack those together. Frankly, it doesn't really even matter how much that is as long as it's something. And I like to build those things and then hide them, right? So, like, in other words, I have certain places that money comes in, it just goes to an account and never see it. That's
Hmm.
like my favorite way to build because I think most of us are creatures of the same, kind of makeup where you start to see money. One of my old mentors used to say this, man, and he was, I think worth a lot more than I am, but he used to say, like, I always want to feel broke. I want to wake up broke every day. If there's money in my account, I'm sending it somewhere. I'm putting it to work. I'm investing it in something. I'm buying something else. So he would purposely feel broke, even though his net worth would constantly go up every year. I'm a lot of that same way, right? My accounts are usually very low because I don't want to see money start to stack up because
Hmm.
I'll start going, oh man, I can buy a new watch. I can buy a new
Yeah.
whatever I'm going to spend it on. So I'm purposely trying to create vehicles where I can't see the cash value. Whole life insurance is a good example, right? It comes out of it gets sucked out of my account every month. It builds up a cash value. That cash value I can borrow anytime I want. Plus, I got the death benefit. We could do a whole podcast on that. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like it's cash being accumulated every single month, and I'm not really paying attention to it. It's just coming out of an account, and that account gets funded through business, moves that we're making. And so I think automating a lot of those things are really important. I also think it's important that you don't say to yourself, like, when I hit a certain income level, I'm going to do
Mm.
this, right? So, like, whole life is a great example because people are like, oh, I could never afford thousands of dollars a month to go on my whole life. Good. Start with 300 or 200 or 100. Start somewhere and then to grow it as you grow. But the point is that 100 a month that you start out with is going to start to accumulate over the period of time. And when you stop paying attention to it, it's amazing. You're not missing the money coming out of your account. I promise you. But what you are doing is growing this kind of forced accumulation in the back end.
Yeah, it's something is better than nothing.
100%.
Whether it's, and it's like have the sweeps from your accounts just go to either reserve accounts, investments, whole lives. If you're into self-directed, funnel money there. Just go broke every day because it also like entices you and motivates you to go out and make more money and make more moves
Yeah, I always say, like, I'm the last guy to get paid all the time, right? I'm
all
always
the
the last
time.
guy to get paid. So if I'm gonna be the last guy to get paid, I want my automated accounts to suck the money out before anybody else gets to it. And that way, I don't miss it either way, but I'm still the last guy to get paid, right? So if I don't automate that stuff, it's not going to happen.
For sure. What's on the horizon for you, both in like real estate coaching, just life in general, and how are you planning to continue making an impact?
Yeah, I'm really excited about some of the charity work that we're doing right now and
Okay.
create partnerships. We've just we delivered a veterans villages in North Philadelphia last year, 47 unit apartment complex for veterans, and it's a combination of affordable and market rate. So, basically, we won't turn away any vet depending on their circumstance. If they can get the application approved, then we're gonna find a place for them. And I've recently started talking on the higher level with self-storage on the development side with some different private equity, and really excited in the fact that they're interested in trying to find ways to build more of these. So it's a combination of like the more we grow and the more that we build, the more that we're going to be able to build these villages around the country. And so that's what's kind of driving me right now on the development side is, how can I build more storage, partner with the right capital partners, and also go vertical on veterans villages at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's something I've always wanted to get involved with. A couple of years ago, I was like, oh, I want to buy VA properties, like with the contracts and everything, and just turn them around and whatnot. Because
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people serve in my family. I never did, but a lot of my uncles, great uncles pop up, stuff like that. And it's, definitely something that, we're pretty passionate about. Just never knew where to get started. I've known people, like active duty passive income. They do a lot of stuff. But I just never knew where to actually take the leap and get
I'm gonna
involved.
hook you up, brother. As soon as we're done taping, I'm gonna hook you up.
Love it. If you had one piece of, advice for aspiring real estate investors, entrepreneurs, what would it be?
You got to take action. I know it sounds so simple, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen, met, talked, interviewed with people that like, they're in their 50s and their biggest
Mm.
regret is they spent the last 25 years not doing anything. It's the same thing with that automatic $100 a month. It's the same thing. Take that action every single month, every single week, every single day. And eventually it will start to amount to something. And confidence comes from repetition. So everybody just thinks that they're going to like read a book and get confident and go do something. It's not how it works. You have to go out there and risk. You have to go out there and take action. You have to go out there and do something, even if you fall on your face, because you won't do that again. You'll do something else. And so I think just taking the action to get involved, no matter how small, the art is in the start. Like get it going.
Yeah, and any age limit too. I talk to so many people that are like, "Well, I'm 50 years old," or
Yeah,
whatever, and it's like, "Oh, I could lose everything." What's scarier than that is having to work for trade your hours, dollars for hours of your lives for the rest of your life because you didn't prepare correctly.
yeah.
Like jump into real estate or do something to have a better outcome because you couldn't hold a sign at
A
Walmart
bad outcome
at
is
the end
better
of the
than
day.
no outcome. A bad outcome is better than just sitting where you're at right now. Like that.
At least you put everything all in and you gave it your all and just didn't decide to settle for mediocre.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So for listeners who want to connect with you, learn more about your coaching, real estate ventures, where's the best place for them to go to?
Yeah, for coaching, legacybuilder.coach is the website, and then social media. I mean, they can spell my name right. They can find me. I'm on all different social channels.
Awesome, Joe. It was a pleasure having you on Philly Fortune Talks.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Philly Fortune Talks with Jake Penny. Inspired to share your success story? Visit phillyfortunetalks.com/guest and let's inspire together.